Welcome to Spilling the Tea, where we deep dive into what drives high-performance culture. We'll break down the habits, mindsets, and leadership moves that actually make a difference. Hello and welcome to episode 4. I can't believe it, episode 4 already of Spilling the Tea. My name's Adam, and I am very excited to welcome our next guests. If you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. So my name's Rebecca Pearson, and I am the Chief Sustainability and People Officer for BGI UK.
Amazing. Well, thank you for coming.
I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. Yeah, I think you've been on our list for a while, so we're glad we've collared you for number 4. Now the shows are properly up and running. You're now going to take it to the next level, right?
Oh, that's quite a lot of pressure. I'll do my best. But having seen the first 3, it's genuinely an honour to be asked to be here. So thank you.
Good. You're very welcome. So first things first, how do you take your tea? Are you a tea drinker?
Well, I am, but it is not my first choice of hot drink. Okay. So primarily a coffee drinker. If there's no coffee, I'll have tea. And there's an odd time where I just fancy a tea. So if I was having tea, it's going to be milk and 1 sugar.
Right. Weak, strong,
medium.
Standard.
Just your average,
however
anyone
it comes.
can make it kind of tea. Yeah.
Love it. So you got asked to do this? Did you volunteer for this, or did you get asked to do it? Or was it a bit of both?
It's probably a bit of both, actually. I think I saw the first episode.
Yeah,
thought,
with
that
Alice.
looks interesting. Like, if I'm asked, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
So maybe I said that out loud and then I was asked.
And then was asked.
I don't
know. Well, yeah, it's great to have you. So when you were asked to finally do it, how did it kind of make you feel? Because obviously this is maybe something a little bit different in the business that we do. Yeah.
So I think I'm always really keen. Like, any opportunity that any of us get, I think, to share a little bit of ourselves, but more importantly, what my experience has been working for Bupa and the things that I love about our organisation. Like, any chance I get to share that with colleagues inside or, future colleagues maybe outside of Bupa, I love any opportunity like that. So yeah, I was pleased to do it.
Amazing. And a question we ask all our guests is, if you're going to have dinner with 3 people, who would it be? And it could be any 3 from history.
So obviously, being guest number 4, I sort of knew you'd ask me that question. So I had the benefit of being able to prepare. And I actually had quite a long list. So
hard to narrow it down.
Yeah, before I give my 3, I'll say it's really difficult to narrow down. There were many that I would like to invite. And actually as well, like lots of friends and family who I love to have dinner with as well. So if they're watching, they were also a consideration on the long list.
Yeah, nice.
So I think for me, a brilliant dinner party is one of just total conversation and lots of stories. So the 3 people I would choose are based on being able to deliver against that brief, I think. Okay. I think we chat like the whole night through.
Yeah.
So I'd choose Princess Diana.
Yeah, that's a strong opener.
I'd choose
Very
Princess
strong
Diana,
opener.
yeah. The other similar characters as well would maybe make the long list, but I'm going to go Princess Diana. I would choose Marilyn Monroe.
It's another very strong second.
Yeah, well, I've been given no parameters to this.
Yeah, no, you haven't. Really strong.
Yeah, I'm going for it. And I choose David Attenborough, actually, as well. And I was watching him again last night on TV. So he was on my long list, but watching TV last night cemented as he's made the cut.
He's made it. He'll be pleased about that, I think.
Oh, I thought that completely.
He'll be buzzing.
And just because I think there would be interesting stories and perspectives to share and listen to and learn from. So
that would be an interesting mix.
Yeah.
I'd like to be there. Or maybe I could film it if it had ever happened. Yeah,
if I was allowed more than 3, you could join us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be nice. So getting into a bit more gritty questions. Your 3 non-negotiables in business, personal life. What are the 3 that you kind of stick by?
So I think for me, it's not always a static list. I think it changes depending on the role that you're doing, like the circumstances and the context that you're working in, what life is like outside of work as well at that time. So I think for me, I've had quite a long career with Bupa, which I've loved every minute of.
Yeah.
And my non-negotiables will have moved a lot in that time. So I think, outside of work, it's always just time with my family and my friends. Time with the people that I love is really important to me. And I have a little grandson now since September last year.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, he's lovely. So he's top of the list as well. We all love spending time with him. And then I think, in work, I think to have the freedom in your role to be able to spend time with Bupa colleagues and to create listening opportunities, for me, is definitely one of my non-negotiables. And I've been lucky enough to have roles where I'm afforded the time and the autonomy to spend time with colleagues. And I get a lot of energy from that. So I love that. I really, really do. And, I enjoy listening to them, and I hope that I can take what I learn from that listening and create opportunities for other people to listen to those perspectives, and then we work together and we make the business better. And then, we're just working with brilliant people, which it's not really a non-negotiable here because there are so many brilliant people work at Bupa.
And not to be taken for granted, right?
Oh, yeah, completely. Yeah. So they'd be my three right now, but as I say, it changes, it moves around.
I'm going to push you a little bit now. If you're going to pick one that you feel like has, is there something throughout your career that has really kind of grounded you, or you've always kept that kind of one bit of moral or whatever it may be that you thought, that's really important to me. That's always going to be important to me.
Yeah, that's the easiest question to answer, and it's honestly connection. It
right.
is. So when I joined the organisation, I was in a frontline customer service role, and I can still remember exactly what that was like. I can remember what some of the challenges in those roles were, what some of the challenges in life outside of those roles were. So my ability to connect with people, in the business at all levels, is it's a fundamental part of how I work. So that's the one thing that has to be in the role for me.
So now we're going to get into the more structured questions, if you like, more related to the business and your working life. So the first one's around mindset and self-awareness. So how do you stay grounded when experiencing success? You said you've had a long career at Bupa, a lot of successes in that time, right?
Yeah.
How do you kind of stay as Rebecca, if you like?
Yeah. So the first thing is I would go back to the previous answer, actually, about connection. So it's brilliant when you have successes and it feels good and everybody enjoys it, but there's always more to do. So, after every success, you're sort of focused and working on, well, where can we take this next? How can we build? What else can we do that makes things even better? And I think the second thing, and I think this is really important in leadership, is humility, because nobody is invincible, and I genuinely, one of my personal beliefs is I think some of the best businesses are those where we don't get really hung up on hierarchy. So I would hope that any Bupa colleague at any level would know that they could come and talk to me, if they had a challenge that they needed some help with, but equally if they saw an opportunity that they thought we could explore, I would want people to know that they could come and talk to me about that, and that I'd always be willing to listen and always be willing to help. So I want to, even when we have success, I want to maintain my connection. I want to stay humble. I want to know that there's always more to do. So it's about enjoying the moment, because we should celebrate when we achieve things, and success feels great, and that often is the energy, and it gives us motivation and it powers us forward, because if we can make a difference there, then we can make a difference in other places as well. But it's never job done, is it? So you have to always stay focused on well, where might we go next? And also, I think it's quite useful sometimes to think about the ingredients that meant you were successful in that instance, and how might you use that again in a different context as well.
Do you ever look back and reflect a little bit on some of the successes you've had and thought that was a real biggie? Is there anything where you've gone, yeah, that was like a big moment?
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious one in recent years really would be the work that we did in care services, having led the business through the pandemic, and obviously engagement naturally being very impacted by those circumstances. But even in those really dark, tough days, I still felt so incredibly proud of that team. Like, they were absolute heroes, and I think I'll always be in awe of the work that they did. But then having the opportunity to take those experiences and build something positive and something new from that, and taking that business on a journey where over the following 3 years we moved our engagement score by like just over 20 points.
And crazy,
that changed the way that people felt about the work that they did, and we became a 10,000 person strong team, all pushing in the same direction, all wanting to achieve the same things, and having a lot of fun at the same time, which is important in work. So
absolutely,
for me, I think that's a career high because of where that team had to come from, and go through to get to the end.
And as we know from Lauren and Trish in the last episode, that's no mean feat, is it?
No.
Like a shift of 20 points is huge, especially going through all that.
But creating happiness at work is, if you can contribute towards creating happiness for people at work, then that is a brilliant day's work for me.
That's why you're here. Creating more happiness, right?
Yeah, I'd like to.
So next one is on decision making.
Yeah.
How do you make those difficult decisions under pressure?
So I think the first thing to say, it's important that you try and get like the facts and like the basis of the situation that you're needing to make a decision on. Try not to make assumptions, if possible. And again, back to connection, it's not unusual for me to go into the business units or into the functional teams and ask questions, like seek to understand, try and find out from my colleagues that are doing that particular kind of work or piece of work, like how's this problem presenting itself. So I'm quite curious by nature. I try really hard not to make assumptions on people's behalf. So I'll go and ask questions. I'll sort of get into the work a little bit, but doing that whilst you're mindful that sometimes the decision has to be made quickly. So you've got to also rely on judgment, previous experiences, what you found in fact finding. So just try and be as balanced as I possibly can, but always focused as well on, usually you're making a decision that has a potential to impact either a customer or one of your Bupa colleagues. So trying to stay focused on what a good outcome for them would be, whilst making sure we meet the business objectives as well.
Yeah. And what do you think? So some people obviously make gut decisions.
Yeah.
Which are the cliche gut decision, which is obviously based on your past experience through your career or whatever's gone on in your life. Is that something you feel like you use a lot? Do you use your gut? Or
I'd say it's more, so for me personally, I think it's usually more instinct. So I think my instinct will give me a view on a situation, and of course some of that is influenced by previous experiences, but again, being careful not to make an assumption that just because a previous something has panned out a certain way that's exactly the same in this instance. So it's always that balance between like instinct, the fact base, and going to be curious and like seeking to understand. And it's not unusual that you go and ask questions and actually find that what your assumption would tell you is different to what's actually happened. So you've got to keep an open mind as well.
Nice. Okay. Next question is around energy levels. How do you keep those energy levels up throughout the day. You sat down before we started recording and said you've had a lot of meetings today.
Yeah.
But your energy levels seem really high still.
Yeah. No, I'm
so
good.
how do you
Good.
how do you do that?
So I think the first thing to say, so at a personal level, I like in general terms, my energy is quite high in the morning,
Right.
and then if it's going to peter off, it'll be towards later in the day. So I know I'm better in the morning, if you like.
Yeah.
So I'll try and structure my day around that, and the
Okay.
stuff that like really requires lots of thinking, like I'll try and do that earlier in the morning when I know that I feel like at my most alert and my energy levels are super high.
Yeah.
But the other thing to say is, and I apologise if this sounds like a cliche, it's not, it's just the truth. I'm really lucky because I love what I do. So I have a job that I love in a space that I'm really passionate about, and like I want to make a really big difference. So a lot of the work that I do actually excites me from a personal purpose perspective, if you like. And that keeps your energy high as well.
Yeah.
And then, when you see results coming through and you can start to make a difference, that reboosts your energy as well. So it's not to say I've got tons of energy all of the time, but like generally for me, that's how it is.
Yeah. And that's how you... Is there anything specifically you do throughout the day that prevents you from getting kind of burnout or anything? Because obviously, like having an example, making sure you have at least a lunch break, right? Which I know in your role could maybe be a bit difficult because your time's precious, so you need to make the most of it, and to also maybe you don't work 70-hour weeks. Do you know what I mean? So is there anything that you make sure that you have in your day or in your week or months to make sure that you don't get that burnout?
Yeah, so I try to. And again, it depends on what's going on. It's all, no week or month or ever necessarily the same.
Yeah.
So if I've got like quite a long day and it's really heavy with back-to-back calls, I'll try and make sure I've got like some small windows to kind of walk away from the laptop, like grab something to eat, grab a drink, like it happens to be working from home, I'll have like a 10-minute chat with my husband.
Yeah.
I was working from home on Friday last week and the weather was beautiful. So like I grabbed something to eat at lunch and just had like 15 minutes outside. And it's funny, it doesn't take very long actually in a different environment to just give you like a bit of a lift.
Bit of reset.
I think I call them actually circuit breakers. I don't know why.
Right,
I don't know why. I just call it like a little circuit
like
breaker.
that.
And then, sometimes I have. It's nice if the opportunity arises and you can spend time with friends or family in the week. It's not always like that, but there might be the chance to grab a dinner. Might be able to see my 2 grown-up kids one evening for dinner. Like every now and again, I have a little routine with 2 of my best friends. We call it Wednesday Club.
Nice.
So where diaries permit, we'll go out for food on a Wednesday. It doesn't happen super regularly, but when it does, I really enjoy Wednesday Club.
You lock into that.
Yeah.
Lovely. Love that. So high performing culture. How do you drive that from a leadership perspective? There's
lots of different factors I think that contribute for that. And in no particular order, but I guess the order that makes the most sense to me, I think, like it always starts with listening. Yeah. So I have a personal point of view that I think the best organisations are the ones where you take decisions where as many voices in the business are heard and considered within the decision that you're taking. So if you imagine that, the analogy I always use is you kind of like tip the triangle on its head, if you like.
Okay.
So usually in the teams that I'm sort of working with, I'll always create listening opportunities so that the team has a chance to share what they think and feel about the work that they're doing or the opportunities that we might have or the changes that we want to make. I think that's really important. I think the second thing is just being really clear on the story. So how you explain what the goals or the vision are for that particular team or function or department or business, because I think for people to perform at their best, it's good to know what the direction is.
Yeah.
Because generally, as like human beings, if we're really clear on what we are here to do and the part that every individual plays and why every individual part is so important, no one person is more important than the other, and what we're trying to do and what the impact for them and for customers will be when we get there.
Yeah.
Like generally speaking, like people will come to the conversation. You can start to get a level of excitement around the work that we're doing together. You can start to set milestones. You can start to celebrate success. And I think people enjoy being part of something. You know, we spend a reasonable amount of our lives in work. And I think the best work is when you feel like you're part of something and you understand the direction that we're heading in. You know the part that you're to play. You know that if you've got ideas, you are welcome and open to share them, and that they'll really be listened to and considered. And I've been in a lot of teams where we've worked like that, where it's been a lot of fun as well.
Yeah.
And I think fun and happiness are important attributes in work. I really do.
Love that. And so to peek behind the curtain a little bit, obviously you'll have board meetings with your peers and with the CEO. How is it in that room around high performance culture? What do you feel like that's in the room that's driving the kind of success? Is there any like a common theme?
It's lots of the same things actually. So
Right.
it's alignment behind the goals.
Yeah.
It's discussion about what goals are important and where achievement of those goals will take us and what that will enable us to do.
Yeah.
It's conversations about how can we create that together. So, you know, what part can we individually play? You know, what strengths have we got? What skills might we need to dial up on? So it's
Right.
like
Nice.
unsurprisingly, it's lots of the same. It's lots of the same conversations. And I mean, one of the things that's really nice about being part of a team, and you see this in lots of different teams at lots of different levels, is you've often got a real mix and variety of backgrounds, of skill sets. So that brings a richness to the conversation. I think if we all
absolutely.
thought the same thing about the same things, we wouldn't be particularly creative. So, and you know, sometimes we disagree, and that's good. That's fine too.
Thank you. That's a really fascinating insight. So if we go on to our almost final question, I know it goes quick, right? How do you balance your personal life, and I know you've touched on it a little bit, but your personal life with your aspirations?
So being honest, I mean, it's not always easy. I don't, you know, it's I think it's something you have to work on, and you know, life demands, whether it's work or home, you know, it ebbs and flows, doesn't it? Different things are going on, and you know, there's different things to support. So I think the first thing is you just need to be conscious of it. It's really important that is something that is like in your mind to think about, to be thoughtful about, you know, to manage, to be considerate about. I'm really lucky, you know, I have a really supportive family who, you know, are brilliant. They kind of understand what I do and how important it is to me, and it's you know, my work is a big part of who I am. So they're great and really supportive. But you know, equally, we need to like have time together and have the opportunity to do the things that we want to do. So it's always a balance, and you still want to be successful in work, and this is a really ambitious business, so we want to achieve lots of exciting things. So you know, if I'm being really honest, Adam, I haven't got like the magic answer. I'm sorry to the listeners if that's disappointing. It's a matter of balance, and I think just being conscious that a balance between the two things are important. And sometimes there has to be a dial up because of the things that that are going on. You know, during COVID is another example where there was a real like volume dial up because of the need to sort of support the business. But there are other times when you know, there's more time for, say, a Wednesday club or pizza as a family on a Friday evening, that kind of stuff.
Lovely. Love that. So the final question I've got for you is around career development
Mm-hmm.
and something we have in the business called Connected Careers. That's something that's, been launched, I suppose, relatively recently in the
Yeah.
grand scheme of things. Can you talk a little bit about that and why Connected Careers is kind of really important? Because I know obviously you've been on a massive development journey through your career. What does it mean to you, and what is it, and what does it mean to you?
Yeah. So I'm smiling because I feel excited to talk about this topic. I really do. So we launched Connected Careers in the summer of last year, and the easiest way to explain it is Connected Careers really is the banner that sits across several programs of work. So what we're trying to do in Connected Careers is raise awareness and create opportunities for Bupa people at all levels, at different stages of their career, with different commitments in and out of work, to experience global mobility and or to have the chance to go and do another role somewhere in BGI UK, even if that's a domestic move to a different part of our UK based business.
Yeah.
And it can be a permanent move, it can be a parallel move at the same level, it can be a promotion, it can be a 6-week assignment, it can be to support a specific project or a specific piece of work, or anything in between. And this is really, first and foremost, this is about us having a mechanism by which we can identify our talent. And we have so many talented people in this organisation. So I don't want them to be kind of hidden with all these hopes and dreams. The business is growing rapidly. We've got lots of exciting work, lots of new spaces that we're exploring that we didn't have previously. And there's so much opportunity to kind of match job and project with like specific skills. So you would honestly be so shocked how many people have got skills and previous experience like hidden in their mind and their CV in different parts of Bupa or their career before they joined Bupa. So we're a really exciting, like dynamic global business. And first and foremost, when we have gaps or opportunities or discrete pieces of work, like I want Bupa people to know about that. And if it's the right thing for them, I want it to be really easy for them to move and use their skills or acquire new skills or be part of a new team, to make new friends in our brilliant organisation. So like all of a sudden, we've unlocked all of these different programs of work. So we have a monthly Connected Careers call, which is where you can come, I'd say, if you're in your first stage of curiosity. So, what is this thing? What might it look like? Does it apply to me? We have our Horizon programs. That's where people are physically moving to undertake assignments. We now have a talent card in Workday, so you can share your experience with us. We can see you. We can find you quickly. We can kind of spot you. And we've got nurses in the UK going to do the work of their counterparts in Australia, vice versa. We've got clinicians going to Spain. We've got clinicians from Spain coming here. There's 12 programs altogether that sit under the Connected Careers banner. But my big message would be, we are a business with so much opportunity, and I want all of my colleagues, like brilliant Bupa people, to know that those things are available and accessible to them. And if you want to develop your skills and acquire new skills, then I think you're in the right place.
Right. And anyone joining, right? So that's
Yeah, we've started to talk about this more externally and to try and bring the programs to life, because there are lots of amazing global businesses, but just because you're a global business doesn't mean that global mobility happens. It can be more common at senior levels, and we're seeing that too, and that is brilliant. Hopefully we'll see even more of that in the next couple of years. But I think at Bupa, the difference is we're a global business behaving like a global business, creating global opportunities for our people. So if you were sat maybe on LinkedIn, like wondering, I can say those things are happening here.
Amazing. Love that. Can you talk a little bit about accessibility of it? Because obviously it's a big program, or multiple programs. how accessible is it for our people? Do you have to be a certain level? And how far does it stretch? And why is it important? Why is it really important on a global scale?
So it's super accessible. So Horizon, which is one of our flagship programs underneath this banner of Connected Careers, in Horizon we create assignments. So we do that twice a year. So we just now have assignments that are live. So we'll have about 45 assignments that will be out to Bupa people in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And in that assignment, there is a range of job grades. So there are some junior entry-level assignments, there are some more senior assignments, and everything in between. And they are in different locations. So some of them are in the UK. We even have one that's in the Philippines. So that's the first time we'll have had an assignment in the Philippines.
Nice.
So yeah, they're varied. Like the roles that are available in the assignments are really varied. They're in all different parts of our business. You know, they're doing lots of different things. So yeah, it's accessible to everybody at every level.
Love that. Excellent. I think that's probably everything. You've been amazing. Thank you so much.
It's been a privilege. The only other thing I was going to say, I don't know if you'll be able to cut this in,
please.
so I'll pause just in case. But I think it's really easy for me to be an advocate for Connected Careers because I joined our organisation 31 years ago for 6 weeks for a summer job in a frontline admin job, and now I have the privilege of doing this role. So I think I would say to anyone that's watching, like these things are possible, and I would just encourage you to embrace the opportunities as they arise, and be curious and believe that those things are absolutely possible here.
Amazing. Great way to finish, I think. Rebecca, thank you so much.
It's been a
pleasure to have you.
It's been great.
Yeah, and looking forward to releasing the episode.
Thank you.
Take care.